Hello, this is Lucy Fox from Lucy Fox Arts. Welcome to the Fox Den. Today, let's relax and color these tiny little flowers. This is the book Worlds of Wonder by Johanna Basford, and on this illustration, I will exclusively use my Holbein pencils. I only own 8 pencils by this brand, but I am curious to see how they fare on this paper. So let's start and chat a little bit while I do that. I have the following pencils: Ash Rose, Raisin, Cherry Blossom, Sea Fog, Beige, Cactus Green, Cork, and Shell Pink. I only have one green, which is Cactus Green, so I will start with my darkest color, Raisin. It's a really dark purple. I will start as using it as the dark value for the shadows on the leaves. You see, a couple of days ago, I was watching a video of a lovely YouTuber called Lily. She's from the channel Art Journey UK, and I love watching her videos. She's amazing. And in that video in particular, she was testing out her Derwent drawing pencils on several coloring books to see if she thought it was worth to purchase the newly released set. If you don't know, Derwent has a line called Derwent Drawing, and for the last 20-something years, the largest set they had of this line was 24 colors. Now, they expanded the line for 72 colors. So, there's 48 more colors now. And Lily was trying to decide if she should purchase this new line, the 48 remaining colors. I am always active on the comment section of channels I follow. I've been following her for a bunch of years now, and I commented on that video because I was very happy that they finally expanded. It's a very thick pencil with a very soft lead. It reminds me of soft pastels, not the color pastel, the tool. And I told her that most coloring books have a very smooth paper, and I didn't find that Derwent drawing performed best on smooth paper. But I like to purchase PDFs to color sometimes. There are a couple of authors that either they only sell Amazon printed books or only on Etsy or Ko-fi shop or other online selling shop. I sometimes purchase from them, which is the case for example, Rada Prince. She launched a book that I cannot buy yet. It's not available in my area. Not easily available anyway. It's called Wald und Natur. In her book, she's using her name, which is Reyhan. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced. And I couldn't purchase the book, so I got in touch with the author on her Etsy shop, and I purchased a bunch of her PDFs, for example. I also purchased a couple PDF books from his name is Jesse, and he also has a YouTube channel, by the way. It's Sweet Sugar Art. Sugar with an H at the end. Now with the green. And I was experimenting when I print books like that. Usually I print on Nina Bristol vellum paper, or sometimes Spring Hill Bristol vellum, or other Bristol vellums that I can find. Oops, that broke. I like to keep my pencils really sharp, and sometimes with soft pencils, even though a lot of people don't think Holbein is soft, but soft pencils sometimes do tip breaks. But anyway, I was chatting in the comment section, and I told her that I like using on Bristol vellum paper. I didn't mention it in the comment section per se, but I also, when I'm the one doing the drawing, I like using a drawing paper pad by Hannah Mille. I think it's called Catch and Concept. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it's called. It's thick, 220 GSM, and it has moderate tooth, similar to a Bristol vellum. Very similar, in fact. It's just a bit thicker than Nina. I don't have a problem sketching on Nina paper as well, or drawing. But most of the time I buy Nina paper in reams. And the pad by Hanamilia, it's more convenient to carry around. And I also like very much to use my Duran drawing pencils on that paper. It's toothy, meaning it has texture. All paper has some sort of texture, but this, for example, is considered mostly smooth paper. This Johanna Basford United States edition. And the pencils I like to use here are, well, first of all, I try not to use my most expensive pencils on it most of the time. However, I had tried before using these more expensive, aka professional pencils on coloring books, and some of them don't perform that well. Um, in case you don't know this, some pencils work better on certain papers. While I was watching Lily do that video, well, I was watching her video, not watching her do the video, but I told her about these perceptions of mine when it comes to pencils and which paper they perform better. And it's not a rule, an absolute rule. There are no absolute rules in art in any way, especially not in coloring books. This is a place not to have any rules. But practically, most of the time, smooth paper works best with pencils that are a bit harder, in my opinion. And that also brings us to coloring style. As you can see here, that I like to layer. I'm a bit heavy-handed, I'm not the most light-handed layerer, but I do like to layer. Not hundreds and hundreds of layers. I've seen artists do so many layers that I am actually in awe of their patience. But I do like to layer. I like to smoosh it and be heavy-handed sometimes. But I do think it's healthier for our hands to have a bit of a lighter hand. At least I feel like my hands tire a little bit less when I'm being more gentle on the paper. Also, because I like to layer, I feel that for me, harder pencils work better on smoother paper. There are exceptions, like everything in life. For example, Prismacolors work pretty well on pretty much any surface. However, that again also depends on your coloring style. As much as a very soft pencil is not as suitable for layering as a harder pencil, I would say that sometimes you can layer with very soft pencils like Prismacolors or even Duran drawing. But that would require a lot of tooth, which means a lot of grain or texture to the. And because of that, it's not always interesting to use certain pencils on certain papers. And I have enough experience, I've been doing this for a decade, to know which ones I like best. But her test made me curious. For example, I had never used my Holbeins on any coloring book because when I purchased my Holbeins, they are very expensive. And that's why I bought a very small selection. In fact, I actually bought 3 pencils first, and only recently I purchased these other ones, like the Raising and this Sea Fog one. I have another one, I have this soft white, but I want to sharpen with a knife, and I didn't yet, so I decided not to use it for this test. I'm gonna try Sea Fog now. And that made me very curious. I was like, she mentioned in her video, by the way, and I'm here chatting away about Derwent and using Holbeins, because she mentioned that's one of her favorite pencils. And I thought, well, I never tested my Holbeins on any of the books, and she did test on Johanna Basford books. That's why I'm testing as well. And that got me curious. And also, I thought it occurred to me that my first Johanna Basford books were not the US version. One of them was the UK, the other was I think it was the Portuguese version. I'm not sure. It was a gift, so I don't remember. I actually did not like that paper or that book. It's not on the account of the illustrations, is the type of the illustration. I typically don't like illustrations that are way too small. This is small, but is nothing compared to how tiny some illustrations on Secret Garden were. In fact, I almost gave up on coloring books when I got that one. But then I saw this video of coloring Kirby Roseanne's Animorphia, and I found the most beautiful illustration ever. I love illustration of animals and also landscapes and sceneries. It's not that I don't like botanical illustrations, I like them quite a lot, but I felt Secret Garden was very samey and so detailed that I had to sharpen so much of my pencils that I would run out of them. And at the time, I did not know. I mean, I knew professional pencils existed, but I did not want to use professional pencils. It's something that I was doing as a hobby. I didn't want to spend an arm and a leg on it. Every time I would run out of pencil, I would buy an entire box. And back then I used to only have Faber-Castell's the red box. And I kept buying boxes and boxes of pencils every time I would run out of one or two of them. Anyway, I decided to grab my pencils, all of my Derwents, because in her second video about it, Lily tested all of her Derwent pencils. And I decided to grab all the ones I have. I don't have all of them, and I don't have the entire set of all of them either. Decided to get all my Derwents and try them out. And because she mentioned her Holbeins in the video, I decided to test them too. The Derwents I own are Derwent Chromaflow, Derwent Pro Color, which is a very hard pencil, Derwent Lightfast, and Derwent Drawing. Those are the ones I have. And I decided to try them on the same books that she did, merely because I wanted to compare the way she described it and felt I trust her opinion very much. I actually purchased a few of my budget pencils later in my coloring journey thanks to her reviews. In many of the things, I feel a lot like her. She said, "Oh, I'm a lazy colorist." I don't think she's lazy. I think she's coloring for the joy of coloring. And when we do that, it doesn't really matter. Like layers, smooshing, whatever it is that you feel like doing in that moment, you do what you feel like doing, and that's it. It's not lazy coloring, in my opinion. But that's what she said in the video, and I was like, okay, I value her opinion, and I am extremely curious now. Because I didn't love my Derwent drawing pencils on Johanna Basford book, but it did occur to me that my old Johanna Basford books were from different editions, from different places in the world. I think I even have one that is a Spanish version or something. And I also remember I didn't quite like some of them, purely for the paper. And I decided, you know what? I have a lot of other Johanna Basford books now. Some of them I adore, like this one is one of my favorites. This and Rooms of Wonder, I don't have all books by this author, but Worlds of Wonder and Rooms of Wonder are my absolute favorites. I even intend on doing the same test on my Rooms of Wonder because that one is a French edition and the paper is different. It's thicker. I'm not sure, but I would guess that they might perform differently. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna test it out. I'm gonna do the same test that Lily did. color a tad bit on all of the books that she did, and even a few others that I have. She colored on her favorites, so I have to color on my favorites too. Although our favorites clearly intersect. Well, there are so many coloring artists out there. Another thing I mentioned in my comment was that I felt that, on my comment on Lily's video, that I felt that my Derwent drawing pencils performed really well on some of the Asian edition of books, or just Asian books. For example, in my 80 book, I have one that apparently no one out there seems to like, only me. Her books, Eddie's books that I own are, I think it's Tracing the World. That's the collection. And it's one that her lines are very faint. I don't even think they're that faint, but they're not black. And because of that, I like that book because sometimes I like to erase the lines. And I did buy that one because of those lines, the faint lines. I also found that their drawing worked well on some Japanese books. I think I know why. They are slightly more toothy. That got me curious what other books the Derwents would work well on. So I got my Johanna Basford favorite book, or one of my favorites, which is this one, and I'm testing. I tested Chromaflow, Procolor, Lightfest, and Never Drawing. And now I'm testing the Holbein because I got curious. I'm even writing down just so I know what I'm doing because I tend to forget those things. And then years later, I'm leafing through the book and I'm like, what did I do? I'm gonna try to do a background, but I make no promises. This is Sea Fog and Ash Rose. I didn't use Ash Rose yet, so I'm gonna start with this one. Anyway, that's the whole reason I'm doing this video. I did record coloring on the other illustrations on this page, but there was a lot of noise because when I was coloring there was construction going on nearby, and my mic is not the bestest to filter all that noise out. Right now it's night and it's really dark, so there isn't any work on the streets right now, so I can record in a more silent environment. But it doesn't always go that way, and maybe I'll turn that into a short, speed that a lot, like in a time lapse or something. Or maybe I'll record a voiceover on those. I'm not sure yet. Regardless, this one I'm doing in one take, no voiceovers, just coloring. I am a slow colorist. I do not rush through it because I do this for the joy of coloring. And yes, it's true. Sometimes I just want to color and be done with it. Like, I don't want to think too much. But this kind of thing that I'm doing right now is precisely what I do when I just want to chill. This hobby is a bit of a lonely one. I mean, most of the time we're just alone. So I figured I can share this. It's a very chill moment. No rush. Just playing. Having fun. I figured I might as well record this, and then I can share a little bit of a coloring session with other people. I do plan on making a video exclusively about this testing I'm doing. I mean, everyone feels differently. The pencils, I mean. Some people say Holbeins are soft. Some people say Holbeins are hard pencils. To me, they're right in between. I've seen people say, oh, Holbeins are like Prismacolor and Polychromos had a baby. Which, yeah, I can understand where people are coming from when they say that. I really understand. Because I can feel this mix of properties. I mean, I don't think Holbeins are comparable. I feel they are closer to polychromos in feel than they are to Prismacolors. They lean a bit harder, and they are more opaque than polychromos. They are just less translucent. I do think that they have a softness to them, but then again, when people say, "Oh, polychromos are a hard pencil," I don't feel they're hard. They might be translucent, so they're not super opaque, and they're definitely not a creamy pencil, which is how I would describe Prismacolors, and even in certain measures to their own drawings. But polychromos to me are by no means hard. For instance, I feel that Pro Colors, Derwent Pro Colors, are much harder than my polychromos. And I like hard pencils, and I like soft pencils and everything in between. I think there is a place for all of them, just like I love my budget pencils and I love my professional pencils. And I use very freely my color pencils on my coloring books. So I got some cheaper alternatives. But of course, there are always those colors that we can't find anywhere else. For example, another set I only have a handful of pencils is Carandache Luminance. And I love their perylene brown. I use them for hair a lot, especially shadows. I use them for so many things. And I buy those open stock. And I do use them on my coloring books, even though they are probably one of the most expensive pencils I own, alongside my Holbeins. And I only have a few of those as well. But I like it so much that, and I didn't find a color that matches that exactly. Some are very similar. There is a color that is almost identical in Prismacolor, and a few in some budget pencils, but none of them are that match for that color that fits red hair so well, in my opinion. And I'm a redhead myself, so I can say it. Of course, hair always comes in all shapes, sizes, color, shades, and everything else in between. But I do use that pencil. And I have nothing against it if you own professional set of pencils and you only use professional pencils on your coloring books, that's fine. It's not a problem. I just usually like to reserve my most expensive pencils to my own drawings, stuff like that. But it's not that I don't use them at all. I just rarely do. Although this whole testing is making me reconsider this. I'm clearly feeling the tooth of the paper now. Let me try to add some depth here. You know what I'm missing? I'm missing a black or a dark gray. So I don't have to use this purple as my dark color. But that's all I've got, so that's all I'm gonna use right now. Another thing that I've been interesting is not only just testing pencils, but lately I've been doing mixed media on these books. Just I love coloring pencils. They are my favorite medium. My first and favorite. And they have an ease of use. The learning curve is not that steep. Also, they are very practical in terms of you don't need water, treating the paper, nothing. You just grab a pencil and color. So I like that about it. But it is a very slow medium. And sometimes I have so many ideas for so many different illustrations on my coloring books, especially now that I'm expanding my coloring books collection, that sometimes I'm just like, I want to finish this one. I like it, but I want to finish tomorrow because I already have another idea for another coloring page. So sometimes I want to be a little faster, and I am not a fast colorist, no matter how hard I try. When I try and go super fast with colored pencils, usually it turns out looking like a 4-year-old did it. So I have to take my time. But not everything needs to be colored with colored pencils. For example, I love crayons. Of course, I don't mean kids' crayons. I mean, they're okay too, but I find that they frustrate me more than they please me most of the time. But I recently had the chance to try, and I had traveled during my vacation, and I got my hands on a Neocolor one set. It, it was, I fell in love. I don't even mean the twos because the Kakandash Neocolor twos are water soluble crayons. And the ones I loved the most were actually the Neocolor ones because they are crayons, wax crayons for adults that are super pigmented. And they cover so much area too. I can save a lot of my pencils on backgrounds and I can do backgrounds much faster. I've been experimenting with all kinds of media from gum's eye paints, which are not watercolor, gouache, watercolor paints, water soluble crayons, pastels, a bunch of things really. And I really like how it turned out. The mixed media thing seems to be working really well for me. I've followed a few watercolor tutorials and I love the result. I'm no expert by any means, and I'm sure the reason I like the result is because I follow a very talented person's tutorial. She is called Irena from Black Aneri's channel. I've been loving to experiment. It's a whole new kind of joy. It's so fun. And now that I have more books, I can experiment even more. But that's it. I hope you had a lovely time. Thank you for your company and see you in the next one. Bye.